So, political earthquake this morning in the United Kingdom. The Labour Party, led by Sir Keir Starmer, is set to win a landslide majority and form the next British government. Rishi Sunak's Conservative Party condemned to one of its worst defeats in living memory, perhaps its worst defeat in living memory. Numbers, the exit polls, you might remember yesterday talking about 410 seats for the Labour Party. They have already, at this point in time, based on current projections, crossed the majority mark. They're standing at well over 370 seats. The Conservatives currently struggling to even cross 100 seats. They're at 92 seats right now from the latest projections. But right now, we go across to Geeta Mohan, who is on the ground in the UK, for a sense of what's going on counting day, where the numbers are, what the major results have been so far. Geeta Mohan, can you please tell us what exactly you're seeing there in the UK?
Well, it started raining over here. Showdown to begin with. It's going to be a rainy day. So that will make life difficult for us reporting on the ground. But yes, life is not difficult for the Labour Party, and it certainly will not be in Parliament, because we do know that there is going to be a lot of excitement in the Labour camp. The speeches have been made, although not the formal speech of conceding defeat. Rishi Sunak, while he went onto the stage to accept his win in Richmond, also then spoke about the fact that it is going to be a Labour government and that there's a lot of introspection that's required within the Conservative Party. On the other hand, the victory speech of Keir Starmer just after crossing the halfway mark has already been made, and now both leaders will be headed to 10 Downing and the Palace. Rishi Sunak will first be heading from Richmond to 10 Downing, where he'll formally concede defeat, then go to the Palace and offer his resignation. After which we'll have Sir Keir Starmer also then coming in and then accepting the offer to form government by the Labour Party. That will happen a little later in the day because numbers are still trickling in. Like you said, they've crossed the halfway mark, so they're comfortably going to form government. But in the numbers that were projected and predicted by exit polls, we're yet to see them cross the 400 mark. It is about 410 that has been predicted. Earlier pollsters were saying about 480, which would have been record-breaking for a Labour Party. But even if it is about 410, that's a comfortable position for the Labour in Parliament to pass legislations and to ensure that they get exactly what they want and how they want to revive the economy. One aspect of this entire election and through the campaigning was the economy, taxes, healthcare system, and illegal immigration. Sunak unfortunately could not deliver on illegal immigration. That certainly was something that the Conservatives were not very happy about. And also, if you look at the numbers, Reform UK, I mean, everybody...
Yes, absolutely. Big result. We're having a little trouble hearing you.
Is a huge number. So that's going to be very crucial. Can you hear me now properly?
Yes, it's cleared up. Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I was saying that, the Reform Party, Reform UK was only to get one seat, but they've ended up, according to exit polls, at 13. We're yet to see what is the number that they're going to clock in terms of seats, and that certainly will be important because when you're looking at the breakdown of the vote share, Showdown, we were discussing it earlier also. Nigel Farage's party has eaten into the Conservative votes, and in many places the percentages, if you add up Reform and Conservative, would have been good enough for them to convert that seat into a win. But that's
a bit of a connection issue there again, I think. Just a bit of a connection issue again.
And they, Keir Starmer, can you hear me now?
It's breaking a little bit, just a little bit.
Okay, let me just see if I can work the.
Yeah, it's much clearer now.
Just a sec.
If you can keep going.
It's better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So I'm saying Keir Starmer in his victory speech also said, Shashank, that this is not preordained. This is not something that just happened to them. It happened because of a lot of hard work. And that hard work came through because Keir Starmer worked tirelessly to ensure that the Labour Party looks cohesive, one unit. And that's what Labour projected. Unlike the Conservatives, where there was a lot of infighting, something that also upset the Conservative vote bank, that they were tired of seeing so many changes of prime ministers, that the leadership was not in place, that there was a lot of infighting, people vying for the top position. Something they've not seen or was not what was projected within the Labour camp. So that certainly worked in Labour's favour as well. All those fence-sitters, all those who are watching and not traditional party voters actually looked at Labour as the solution. Now, in terms of solutions itself, while Rishi Sunak was coming with a plan, and we could see that exactly what he wanted to do, Labour did not have a specific plan and solution, yet it is a Labour wave, and so riding on that Labour wave, Labour did not get cornered on areas, ideologies that certainly could have hurt their prospects. They had broader strokes, bigger sweeps when it comes to exactly what the issue and concerns are, and they kept saying that they will fix the country. Sir Keir Starmer also said, and he repeated his slogan, country first, party second. And he repeated that by saying that it is time to bring about that change for the country, for the betterment of the country. So a very important victory speech there, because it is a historic day. After 14 years of Conservative rule, we're going to see Labour return to power, and with a very new leadership, fresh faces. Sir Keir Starmer is a very well-known human rights lawyer, but then there are aspects to how he's going to conduct foreign policy and relations with India.
Absolutely. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because that seems to be a big question. People, of course, commenting on the fact that Rishi Sunak had a good relationship with Prime Minister Modi, seemed interested in working with India on questions like the Indo-Pacific and on defense. Labour has, of course, tried to moderate its image, but in the past has had something of a contentious relationship with India, but of course now coming out and saying that they want a closer relationship. Could you tell us a little bit about how the Labour Party is likely to look at India and its relationship there?
Well, very important, because you see, as opposition, we saw them make very strong remarks on various aspects, including Kashmir, Shashank. And I keep saying this: when you're in the opposition, you have the space and the elbow room to say what you want to on foreign policy issues. But the moment you take charge and you're part of the government, things change.
Right.
Things change for Labour when they realize that they're going to come to power anyway. India figured in the manifesto as a priority country where they would want to increase and improve the strategic partnership between the two countries and enhance ties between the two countries. So much so that even before elections and while there was campaigning happening, we had very important critical shadow ministers visiting India. David Lammy, the shadow foreign secretary, also visited India. Health secretary, treasury secretary, all of them were in India not so long ago. So that really goes to show that they were engaging India. Now, for our viewers, what are shadow ministers? Because it's unheard of in any other part of the world. Shadow ministers in the United Kingdom are those ministers who are from the opposition. They're not ministers. They're called shadow ministers because they shadow a ministry and a minister in government. So if there's a foreign secretary, David Cameron, there was a shadow foreign minister in the opposition camp, David Lammy, who was following the same issues and seeing what Labour has to say about those issues. Similarly, a shadow finance secretary, a shadow health secretary, all of them focusing on their respective ministries. It also gives us an indication as to who is going to get what portfolio should that party in the opposition come to power. At this point in time, David Lammy, he was speaking to a news network last night, and he said that he's confident that once they form government, that he will become foreign secretary, because there's a lot of conversation down here whether if David Lammy indeed will be given that position or not. But he's put in his hat already, and he said he is going to become the next foreign secretary. So we'll have to wait and see. With respect to India, it's not just the engagement; it's also about the fact that owing to the wars, Shashank, the Russia-Ukraine war and now the current Israel-Hamas war, the world and Britain have come to realize that India is a very important country, and engaging India is important not just for them but to ensure some sort of peace and stability in the region and globally as well. And therefore, I do not see a Labour having a cantankerous or a strained relationship with India, as it was the case in the past. And also, they will not come sounding condescending, because no longer is India a country where India can be told off. New Delhi is not going to listen to that. So, a more cordial relationship between equals is what I expect Labour Party to be looking at when they look at India.
Understood. And, of course, we were talking just yesterday, you were with some members of the Indian community. We were talking about whether the exit polls would really turn out to be correct, because there was such strong support among them for Rishi Sunak. But it turns out that the exit polls, unlike here in India, have turned out to be very, very accurate in terms of how this election has turned out. About the man, Rishi Sunak himself, what do you think is his, there's a lot of conversation about who would bear the responsibility for this, of course. But what do you think about Rishi Sunak's personal style? You've been there for a little while. What is the view of Rishi Sunak personally? Because he's now, after today, no longer going to be Prime Minister. But how much of a responsibility do you think he bears for sort of this defeat? Has it been largely up to him because he is, of course, the Prime Minister, or was it factors beyond his control?
Well, that's an interesting one, because, he did quite strained and stressed while campaigning. Putting up a brave front, know very well that Conservatives the back foot. Having said that, on the ground, his popularity has not waned completely.
I'm sorry, I think we've lost Geeta Mohan there for just a second. Her feed has just cut out. But, as you were just hearing her say, I'll give you my opinion, viewers, if you want it, in terms of Rishi Sunak and his level of responsibility for this defeat. It's always a difficult thing, right? Because he had a number of problems coming in that, of course, he was not the author of. Problems with the economy, problems with inflation, problems with the fact that his predecessor, Liz Truss, had essentially set fire to the British economy with her economic plans. It was a very, very short premiership of hers, very chaotic premiership of just 49 days. And there were, of course, issues like the problem with the NHS and the problems with immigration that were not necessarily of his making. But the problem is that the Conservative Party has been in power for 14 years. And so while he may not personally be responsible, the Conservative Party, of which he has been a member, which he represents in Parliament, and of which he has been a minister for the last 6 or 7 years, has largely been responsible for some of these challenges. There have been lots of accusations that the Conservatives have vastly underfunded basic public institutions like healthcare, that they have essentially built an economic regime that benefits really the rich. So, of course, while Rishi Sunak is not oftentimes personally responsible for some of the major Conservative mistakes over the last 14 years, he certainly was part of a government that made a lot of those decisions, and his personal style really has not helped. As we pointed out earlier this morning, his propensity to look out of touch because of his extreme wealth. He's worth almost £1 billion in a country that's struggling economically, was something that always was going to count against him. He has also been someone who, on the campaign trail, has looked slightly wooden, not as charismatic as some of his predecessors. He's been seen as very managerial, but not necessarily the kind of charismatic politician who could take the Conservatives out of the hole that they find themselves in. And of course, there were also tactical mistakes. Let's be clear, he did not have to call an election this early. It was, he could have waited for at least another couple of months, but he chose to call an election in July. The rationale for it is not exactly clear, but that's exactly the problem, right? That Rishi Sunak, while he, of course, did not create a lot of the policy problems that he's been saddled with, unfortunately has been part of a government that has been unable to rise to the occasion. Rishi Sunak himself made his career backing the Brexit, the British exit from the European Union, which has created a lot of problems. He also backed, extremist leaders like Boris Johnson, who were seen as really destroying the credibility of the Conservative Party among the general British public. That was also a big issue that caused a crisis of confidence, and Sunak backed those leaders, backed those policies. So there is a level of personal responsibility, at least in my opinion. But even as Prime Minister, he hasn't really held up under scrutiny. But what we've also got for you here today is the concession speech that Rishi Sunak made in his constituency of Richmond and Northallerton, where he talks about the fact that he's sorry. We'll just play it for you, that speech right now.
Could I start by thanking the returning officer and all the team who've been working here at the count and at the polling stations today. You make our democracy possible. I'd also like to thank the police who have ensured that we can conduct this ballot here in North Yorkshire, but also across the country in safety. On this difficult night, I'd like to express my gratitude to the people of the Richmond and Northallerton constituency for your continued support. Since I moved here a decade ago, you have made me and my family feel so at home, and I look forward to continuing to serve as your Member of Parliament. It is an enormous privilege. I'm grateful to my agent and constituency team, and I congratulate my opponents here on the energetic and very good-natured campaigns that they have run. The Labour Party has won this general election, and I have called Sir Keir Starmer to congratulate him on his victory. Today, power will change hands in a peaceful and orderly manner, with goodwill on all sides. That is something that should give us all confidence in our country's stability and future. The British people have delivered a sobering verdict tonight. There is much to learn and reflect on, and I take responsibility for the loss. To the many good, hard-working Conservative candidates who lost tonight, despite their tireless efforts, their local records of delivery, and their dedication to their communities, I am sorry. I will now head down to London, where I will say more about tonight's result before I leave the job of Prime Minister, to which I have given my all. I will then return here, to my family's home, and I look forward to spending more time with you all in the weeks, months, and years ahead. Thank you.
So that was Rishi Sunak's concession speech. In fact, for those of you who are sharp-eyed to have noticed, behind him was standing someone holding an L sign, which was meant to denote loser. In fact, this is something that's a very prominent trend in British politics, where you have prime ministers and candidates and very senior leaders made to stand alongside joke candidates and so on and so forth. This was, of course, one of them. But that joke candidate was also Nico Omilana, who is a very famous YouTuber in the United Kingdom, someone who's a prominent personality who, of course, decided to run against the Prime Minister and won something over 100 votes in this election. So it's a very interesting thing to see Prime Minister give a speech with someone holding a loser symbol right behind him. So very, very unique to British politics. But what we also have, striking a very different note, a note of triumphant victory, is likely the man next set to be Prime Minister of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. That is Sir Keir Starmer. We have his victory speech for you here. We'll just be playing that for you.
So much for that reception. What an amazing reception. We did it. You campaigned for it, you fought for it, you voted for it, and now it has arrived. Change begins now. And it feels good, I have to be honest. 4.5 years of work changing the party. This is what it is for. A changed Labour Party, ready to serve our country, ready to restore Britain to the service of working people.
And that was Sir Keir Starmer, leader of the Labour Party, and now, by the end of today, likely the new Prime Minister of the country. Rishi Sunak will go now to Buckingham Palace. He'll head back to London, go to Buckingham Palace, resign. He will meet King Charles III and will resign, and soon afterwards, you will have Sir Keir Starmer go to the King and accept his commission to form a new government. And by the end of the day, we will have a new government in power in the United Kingdom. That's all for us right now. We keep getting you the results. Results are still coming in. We're told right now that the Labour Party has around 380 seats. They've got around 562 seats declared so far. There are around 650 seats in British Parliament. So, of course, just 60 to 70 to go. As and when the final election results are announced, we'll let you know. But the big news is that the election is effectively over. Labour has secured a majority. Sir Keir Starmer will be Prime Minister, and Rishi Sunak will end his short but brilliant 9-year career in politics. Thank you so much for watching us on India Today Global.